Good afternoon. Thank y'all all for coming and for coming and being interested in your students' education. Several of you had already raised your hand saying you attended Snead, and that's something that's exciting to us. We are now starting to see easily third and sometimes fourth generation students whose not only parents but grandparents, in some cases great-grandparents, came to Snead in one of its incarnations. So that tells you a little bit about our history of Snead and why it's important. We are very fortunate to have a community college that's different than the run-of-the-mill junior colleges that were started in the 1960s. The prefab buildings and the flat roofs and the buildings that all look the same. Snead is not that. We started long before that, and we're different in several ways. First of all, our history starts when Boaz was settled. The community couldn't really afford an educational institution, and they asked the Methodist Episcopal Church to come in and run their elementary and high schools. But by 1935, there was a call for the city to take back their educational institutions. There was a great rise of interest in schools and education, and there was an interest in what was called a junior college movement. It started in 1901 in Joliet, Illinois, and that junior college really inspired a lot of people throughout the nation. It inspired people here on Sand Mountain as well, because they said, we want a junior college in our community. Now, why do we want one? For the exact same reasons a lot of your students are coming today. It's cheaper and it's close to home. In the 1936 bulletin, when we were the first year of our junior college incarnation, we found out that they said, it's close to home. It's inexpensive. You're under the influence of your parents, not an institution far away. And that really encouraged a lot of people to support our college. By 1935, we are starting the junior college, and we will be the first in the state of Alabama to give the associate degree. By 1967, the private college had decided to join the state institution of junior colleges, and later on became a community college, including technical programs, and today we have things like nursing, we have computer classes and computer courses that deal with cyber terrorism and things such as that, as well as child development that fall under our technical realm. And so that makes us a community college, both for transfer and for ready-to-work status. Now, one of the things to remember, though, is we still remember our Methodist heritage. You may have heard that our mascot is the parson. A parson is a circuit-riding Methodist minister, and we have held on to that as part of our heritage and where we came from and who we are. And at times, there have been some people who said, well, we need to change our mascot. But those of us who are historians are like, it's a nod to our past, and we really appreciate that. The facilities have also kept up with the times. The building that you're in was built in 1920, as well as the other end of this building. It was connected in 1921 by the building that the hall is in, where you have walked into this section. Originally, the old administration building was in the middle, and they built two ends and connected them later. So when you look at the cornerstone of the building, it states 1920-21. That means there was construction going on for 2 years. So it's really kind of a neat story. One of our other historic buildings, and the other building on our campus is on the National Register of Historic Places, is the Norton Building. It was originally a library for the community. It had a children's section. It had gemstones. It had fossils and things like that in it. And when we didn't have a public library in Boaz, it was the public library for the region. Today it houses our history, political science, and psychology courses. And so we're excited to teach history, which is what I teach, in a historic building. We also had a gymnasium that was thought to be one of the best in the state. It was built in the 1920s, served us to the 1970s, and it really reflected the mania for sports that happened in the 1920s. Snead has had all types of sports. Of course, today we have a good litany of sports, but even early on we had boys and girls basketball, and we had football. Now, some of you may not know we had football, but we did. We actually defeated the University of Alabama one year in the 1930s, and so we're really proud of that. But by 1940, it was found to be too expensive. The last football team that we had, it was in arrears. $1.75. The administration felt just wasn't worth it, losing too much money. And so they shut it down. Obviously, a dollar goes a lot farther in 1940 than it does today. But sports and athletics are a part of our campus too, and your students will have free access to all of our athletic events, and they're very popular here at Snead. We also have some other things in our repertoire, if you will. From the beginning, music was taught here on our campus, and today we have music groups, our jazz band, our street singers, and we have classical concerts that are free to our students and provide the opportunities for culture and activities for the community and for our students as well. Now, some of you may want to defray the cost of education. We've done that for years. Early on, Snead had a farm. We had crops and canned them, and students milked cows and picked cotton. So when your students whine, it could be worse. They could be picking cotton at school, literally, to make their tuition. Now, one of the other things that we ran into during the Great Depression was a lack of money. And our lack of money was assuaged by one of our bright presidents. And he started selling sorghum syrup to people in Birmingham. Now, some of you may be familiar with some sorghum syrup around the area. Some of you, like me, may be old enough to go down 431 down here, and on the left there was a sorghum mill. And that's where, some of you are nodding, that's where my grandfather, who lived in Dove Springs, came up to get sorghum syrup. He wouldn't get it in the valley. He said it wasn't any good. He had to come up on the mountain. Well, that's what our president felt. So he took it to Birmingham to sell. It got so popular he had to buy him a bootlegger car. Now, bootlegger cars have extra springs in the back and an empty area under the trunk. Not only is that the start of NASCAR, but it's a way to carry a lot of heavy goods. And he filled that thing up and selling it to Birmingham, keeping the school solvent all this time. So our faculty and staff care about our campus in a lot of a variety of ways. Now, Snead itself is named after John H. Snead, a businessman who gave land and money to build the campus. The residence hall is named after the elders. The elders were one of the first people to move here, and they housed students in the early part of our school's history. The Mays Music Building is named after Glenn Mays, who was a local musician, and Coach Plunkett is named both in our gymnasium and in our baseball field, and was well known. My mother talks about that everyone in Alabama knew who Coach Plunkett was and what a good reputation he had, and how impressive it was to come to Snead and be under Coach Plunkett. And so our buildings aren't all named after legislators. They're not all named after companies. They're named after people here in our community. Chalmers Weathers was a local businessman, and he brought the outlets to Boaz, and our business building is named after him. And the Osborne English Building, Fielder Auditorium, pictured in now, as well as a couple of other areas like McCain, were all presidents of our college, and buildings and facilities were named after them to honor them. Several of the things I've mentioned really ties to community. And that's something that I really want to focus on to close up here. Community is very important to Snead. I tell people when I go to conferences, across from our administration building are people's homes. We are in the heart of the community, and we're very proud of that. We're also very tied to our academics. We have had a long academic tradition. Our students traditionally, according to statistics that we have gathered, do better when they transfer to a four-year institution than incoming freshmen at that four-year institution. Let me back up again and emphasize this. Our students go to a four-year school. They graduate better and have better GPAs than people that started at that school. So they get a solid academic base here at Snead, and we're proud of that. That's one of the things that we really hold dear. And lastly, we had an old saying at Snead in one of our old seals, and it says that we wanted to train hands, heart, and minds. And we're very insistent that our students get a quality education and get a great opportunity here at Snead. This excellence comes through our faculty, it comes through our administration, it comes through our facilities. And we thank you for allowing your students to come to Snead. We thank those of you who have attended Snead, and we hope that you will continue that tradition of excellence. Thank you.